Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sarah with Harrisburg Project. We've got a couple minutes before we get started. I did just want to get on a little bit early and let you know there is not a handout for today. So we're just going to be doing live demonstration with some um, uh, realistic examples, but fake data. So no handout today. So we've got about another minute and we've got about half logged in. So this is going to be, looks to be a large session today. So we'll give it another minute or so before we get started. But again, no handout today. Okay, so for those of you just joining us, we do have a large group today, so I am going to wait another minute or so to get everybody logged in. And there is no handout for today, so this is going to be a live demonstration. However, if you do have questions, remember, ask them in the questions pod as we're going through the session. Okay. Well, it looks like the entries have kind of slowed down, so we will go ahead and get started. I don't want to make y'all wait too long. So today we're going to go over some common errors that we have in iStar, and how we determine that is basically by statistics on our calls. Really, we don't even have to look. We know what we're helping people with most often. And a lot of that still revolves around SIS. Even though we've kind of been in this game for 7, 8 years, matching up to SIS with the system, it's still probably our number one issue as far if you had to rank year round. So a lot of SIS questions. Some of them are not as prevalent as others. So I'm going to go over most of those SIS issues that we see. It doesn't mean there aren't more. And sometimes the errors can come up for multiple reasons, but I'm going to basically show you the most common reasons that you're getting these errors in iStar. So right now we are, need to be thinking at least about our December 1 child count, which we'll be due in February. And so we need to start looking at correcting errors. At the beginning of the year, we have a lot of errors. We're used to that. We tell you don't worry about it. Everything will fall into place. But now's the time of year where if you've still got an abundance of errors, you do need to start to worry about them. We've had SIS uploads, everybody started school. So you shouldn't have, those beginning of the year issues going on still. Things should be looking better. So if you have, again, an abundance of errors, then you need to start to put your focus on correcting those. So that's why we thought it'd be a good idea to have this session today. So the first example that I'm showing you is a student that has an F50 error. So F50 is when there is no enrollment in the school year. So one of the most common reasons would be, if you look right here, there is no enrollment data available to display. That means that this student does not have a SIS enrollment on the SIS ISB file. So when we are looking to pull back something to match to, it's blank for the year. So something that is really important that all of you need to keep in mind, if your district uses a third-party product such as PowerSchool, then, and that's just one example, there are other examples, but basically it's a student management system that your school district buys. You purchase that, and then it completes a lot of items, that are requirements of you. So first of all, your registrar is going to use that to enroll kids, but also those systems will then create a file that's in the format that's required by SIS for all the different due dates that they have. So the different types of data that they require. So those systems will then create from input into the system, it will create that raw data, if you will, and we'll send that in a format to SIS at ISB. So we are looking at the SIS information that is on file at ISB. We're not communicating with Skyward or PowerSchool or whatever your third-party product may be, Teacherease. We're not looking at those systems. We're looking at what you upload from those systems to ISB. So if you're looking in your third-party product and you think that an enrollment exists, then that means that there's a disconnect between your third-party purchase product and what is on file at SIS. More than likely, you need to do a batch upload to update what is on file at ISB. Okay? In many, many districts, almost 90% of the state uses something like Teacherease, Skyward, PowerSchool. There are more. Those are just the ones that I know of. Okay? So that could be the disconnect. Maybe it's between your product and the system, or maybe there's just not an enrollment for the child. Regardless, this will give us that F50 error. And so if you click on this exclamation point, it will show you F, remember, stands for fatal. This will prevent the record from being reported. Okay? You can sometimes see this under other circumstances, but this is going to be the most common reason why. Okay. Go to our next example here. All right, for this one, we have a private facility, therapeutic day student, so that's Fund B. You can see that we have begin date is out of range for private facility and term. No SIS enrollment available for provided dates. So this is a 147. It means there's an enrollment, but the dates we are using do not fall on or within the enrollment. And the student is not found in SIS for the private facility RCDTS. Okay? So let's look at the record. When we open it up and look at it to edit it, I'm going to scroll down and you're going to see that the begin date on this record is August 13th. So according to the enrollment, that's too soon. We cannot have the begin date in iStar until August 18th or after. Okay? So that's going to be your F147 issue. No enrollment for the dates. So these are for private facility students, okay? So your fund code B is going to be like this. Your fund code F will be like this. And your fund S students will be very similar as well. But we're also looking at, if you click on details here, we're also going to be looking at the begin date for the private facility. So that's going to cause an issue for you as well. So if we scroll down here, you can see this begin date is not until 8/18 either. So because we're using August 13th, we're getting multiple issues here. So begin date is out of range for the private facility. No SIS enrollment available for the provided dates. And then we're also getting a 149 here. So this is where we spent a ton of time on kids that were at private facilities and public day schools last year. So funds B and F and S. We spent a lot of time on the school codes. So for these types of facilities, you're going to be choosing a private facility. So on this record, we have the facility for Taylorville at Minta. When we look at the details of this, we're looking at the whole code. So the region is 31. The county number is 045. The district is the next 4 digits. The type are the last two. I'm sorry, the last two. And then we're going to have 4 digits on the end, and those represent the school code. So, of course, the resident district or the resident county, district, and type has to match. But also on these particular fund codes, we're also going to look at the school code. So we're looking at the entire 15-digit code. And that is something that was new last year. So a lot of you were not prepared for that. The reason is because these facilities, and I picked Minta on purpose because these facilities have multiple codes. They can have codes that are in different cities at different facilities, but they can have codes that are at the same facility. And you have to remember that these represent the per diem amount that you're being charged and what you can claim. So we want to make sure that you are reporting the correct school always. When it comes to this, if you are not, you get down to claims time. If you're looking at claiming a certain amount, say you're charged $500 because it's an intensive program, but you only put the regular program in iStar. Let's say that one's $300. You're only going to be able to claim $300 for that number of days instead of $500 for that number of days. So you're going to be out reimbursement. So in an effort to try to prevent this furthermore, we added in this school check. So not only, again, is it going to check the district matches on serving, but it's also going to make sure that the school number here, and again, these last 4 digits, the 0355, matches the service provider here. Okay. And as you can see, you can tell right just by looking at it that it doesn't match, because we have Minta Academy Centralia and this has Minta Academy Cornerstone Taylorville. But again, we could have, if you look at this, you can have multiple rates even at the same facilities. So you can see throughout here that even if we had Minta Academy Cornerstone Taylorville, there's an intensive rate also. So again, we just want to make sure that we are selecting the correct school here, and it's in an effort to make sure that your claims will be correct. Now, if SIS is incorrect, then you have them change that. If SIS is correct, maybe you need to make a change, right? We're not saying that one is correct over the other, but it will get people talking. And then what you want to do is go look at what you're being charged and then compare that to what this rate is here in iStar. Now, some of the rates have not been set yet, so this one is showing $1. But you still want to make sure that you're checking these facility types. If that child has an individual aid, more than likely they should be selecting the intensive program, not the regular program. So an individual aid or an individual nurse, those are usually indicators that the student should be in the intensive, again, not the regular. So this simple change right here can make a lot of difference in your funding. We see a lot of mistakes here. So again, this was not implemented last year to make things harder for you guys. It was to try to help not lose any funding, because even still, this is a problem. Okay. And sometimes people just don't understand that there can be 2 different rates at a facility, that there's a regular rate and an intensive rate. And so it can just be an honest mistake. Okay. All right. Do we have any questions about that one? So again, for your therapeutic days, your fund code S, so that's BF and S, we're going to be a little more critical about the school. Under other circumstances, it's an either or. We want to make sure that the serving district and the serving district matches either the service provider or the serving school in SIS. So it's not as strict. Okay. All right, I don't see any questions, so we'll do another SIS one before we move on. All right. This error is going to be end date must be less or equal to the SIS exit date of 8/13/2025. So let's look at this record. This enrollment started on August 11th and this student left on August 13th. And so when we come in and look, we don't have an end date. So the enrollment has ended. Now we need to make sure that we end the I-STAR record, okay? So what you would do here is type in the end date that is on file for SIS if the child did indeed leave the district, okay? So again, that's an F154. End date must be less than or equal to the SIS exit date of 8/13. So our begin date seems off here in addition to that end date. So we would want to work on both of those in this scenario. But regardless, the student, it appears the student has left. Okay. If you're giving me error numbers, you're going to have to give me the message. Okay. I don't know the error numbers off the top of my head, so you'll have to tell me what the message says if you need me to help with those. All right. The next one is for disability of N. When a student turns 10, the disability of N is no longer valid for them. It doesn't matter what grade they're in. It doesn't matter what their placement is. It doesn't matter what their fund code is. Once they are 10 years old, they can no longer have the disability of N for developmental delay. So you can look here and see this child is 10 years, 1 month. They just recently turned 10. And if you open up this record, your inclination for some of you is to come down here and change this, and it will not let you do that. We want to guarantee that we receive history for the usage of this disability. So what you have to do is come in and do the end add, which is a chain link. And let me look at that birthday again. So the birthday was 10/16. So you'll do an end add. You would end the student's record the day before their 10th birthday. So the 16th was the birthday. So we're going to end it on the 15th. Change is the reason. We're just making a change, and we would do the end add. Then it will open up the new record, and you need to immediately go and change this to something else. If you do not do that and you save the record again, then you're going to be right back in that boat. So it's going to be a vicious cycle. So you want to immediately change the disability. In other words, once it is saved, it will be cleared out again, grayed out, and you will not be able to edit that. Okay, so it is intentional that you are forced to do the end add to change that disability. Okay, and then I've got one more, and then we'll start going through your questions. And some of these I may not be able to pull up if I can't find them, so we'll just have to try. All right, the next one. This is for indicator 11 errors that we have been seeing on some students. This has not been widespread. My suspicion is that these are some students that were move-ins that were in Chicago for their initial. And so you'll be getting these errors, even though very odd errors, even though the data has been entered. So if you are getting odd indicator errors, you need to come in and just clear out. And you can see they aren't even correct dates. One, the consents before the determination, there's no school day set. They're old. They're not relevant to the current school year. So you will come in and just highlight these and hit delete on all of these. Again, these should not be widespread, and you're going to want to save that. Once you save it, then you'll be able to come back here, select your reason 02, and then save it again. Okay. So again, not a widespread issue, but enough that I did want to talk about it today. So, like I said, I suspect that it's from transfer kids from Chicago. ISB turned some air checking on so that we would air check old dates in indicator 11. It was done in an effort to improve our LEA determination collection, and it will work, but it has caused some of these to show up as well. And really, they are errors. It's bad data. So some of you guys may have a handful of those. Okie doke. So now, just in general, if you have orphanage errors, the October file just got loaded today. So first of all, you may want to go check your orphanage records today. If you have them coded as an E or an F and you're getting eligibility errors, then you need to send a list of your email or a list of SysIDs to support, asking us to check the eligibility, and we'll get back to you. Now, Cheryl's already working on that list that we ran today after they loaded the October files, so she may get to you before you get to her. But regardless, that was loaded for October. So if you have any student records that have a begin date of November 1st or after, they're all going to be errors right now. We don't have the November file. So remember, today's the 18th, and we just got October's file, and it's actually earlier than what we normally get it. Usually it's around the 20th or the 21st. So remember, we're always almost a month behind with the air checks. So that's for youth and care. Okay, I've had situations in the past where the tuition increased, but ISTAR didn't reflect the update. That you'll have to take that up with the facility. Okay, so if the facility increases your rate, they have to get that approved with the Illinois Purchase Care Review Board. So until they do that, it's not going to come through to ISB. So ISTAR's just gathering that from what's approved by ISB on their website. So if you have an increase, then you need to make sure first of all, you have a contract update, and second of all, that's going through the Purchase Care Review Board to get approved, because we do have rate changes throughout the year that can be approved. So again, that's on the facility. They need to do better on that. All right. All right, if you're still getting errors for August through October on youth and care kids, again, you need to send the SysIDs to support. All right, if you have an F52, include on approval equals false, that means on the approval record, you need to check the include and approval. So that has accidentally gotten unchecked. So yeah, you don't want that. It's right here. This should not be unchecked. You can uncheck it if you're just claiming kids that you're not reporting. So that somehow got unchecked. You need to check that back. That's the F52. All right, so a warning, private facility is approved residential only. That means that you've got a Fund B and you've got the tuition rate in instead of the residential, or your EE code may be off. Okay, student not found in SIS for resident district. How can this error be fixed? That means that this piece, we don't have those very often, but that means that this piece is not correct. So it may mean that, so this is a Harrisburg enrollment. Resident is Harrisburg at Eastside Intermediate School. So that may mean that another district still has a hold of them, or what you have is not matching. Maybe it's maybe that the other district hasn't let go yet, and maybe you don't have an enrollment yet. So again, we usually don't have a lot on the resident side. It's mostly serving issues, but that is the problem. So you need to make sure that there's an enrollment here. And if another district needs to end their enrollment, then that would have to take place too. Now, as far as SIS contacts go, we don't host that. I don't know if that even exists, but that would be a SIS issue, it sounds like. If you had an iStar overlap, so if SIS wasn't the problem, but if it's an internal iStar overlap, then you can come here to resources and run the student contact report, and that would tell you who to contact. But again, if it's a SIS issue, again, I don't even know if it exists that there's a SIS contact report. So you may start by reaching out to the iStar person and see if they can get that enrollment dropped. So that's F145. All right. For F10, that's a claim error. So that means you don't have your claim data filled in, and that's very common this time of year. Claims aren't due until next summer. So ed cost is 0. That's what it means. Your cost is 0. So I wouldn't be worrying about claim errors right now. All right, F05, private facility renewal process has not completed. You may want to send us an email and have us double check that it's not a data entry mistake. If it is not a data entry mistake, then it's exactly what it means. The facility has not completed their process yet, which means they're probably lacking something. So, but send us an email and we'll make sure that that's the case and it's not a data entry issue. All right. Okay, again, I don't know that you're going to have to tell me the message of the errors that you're getting. So F150, you need to tell me what that one is. Okay. Okay, student approval begin date is for next school year and has bypassed edits. That means that you have a record dated in the future. So we do not edit check on records that are not in this school year. So if that was your intention to work in the future, then that's fine. If not, then you may want to check your begin date. It means it's out of this school year completely, which means your begin date is August 1st, 2026 or after. And again, that's fine. You can work in the future, but we're not going to air check it. So we want to bypass the air checking. Okay. I'll take any other questions that you guys have. Again, if you have a question about an error message, just give me the message, please. We have a lot of error numbers, so I cannot remember all of them. I can't remember any of them, actually. So I can kind of remember that 140 somethings is usually SIS stuff, but I think my memory is at max capacity. It is okay to have claim errors, yes, for December 1. For December 1, we are looking at the students that are active. All right, my first December 1 child count. What does that mean for me on December 1st? It means nothing on December 1st. So first and foremost, what we do is we don't actually take the data. We take an image of the data on February 25th. You cannot make any changes to the child count after that date. So whatever we take an image of on the 25th is what your count will be. We look at students that are receiving services, so they have an active approval record on December 1st, because all of your work comes from IEPs. So you are always working behind. So we could not ask that of you to be ready on December 1st for a December 1st timeline. So February 25th is when that's picked up this year. You need to make sure that you have all of your records that of students that are active on December 1st entered into iStar and that they do not have any errors. That's your goal. Okay. You got some more questions. After we take the child count, you can add records back in if you missed anyone, but it will not change your count. So you can work in iStar normally. There are no restrictions, but the count will not change. So whatever it is on February 25th is what it will remain. Okay. I think I kind of answered all that with telling you it's not due December 1st. So yeah, a lot of that. It's not due December 1st. So you have until February 25th. We have people that manage data for over 4,000 students. They need every single bit of that time. There's no way we could take that data on December 1. Okay. I have an F-146. However, the RCDTS code is correct in SIS, ISB, and in iStar, as are the start dates. Okay, you'll need to send an email in with the SIS ID. I mean, there's clearly probably something wrong with it. We'll just have to take a look. You have to look all the way down to the school code, remember. Okay, so we just went over the indicator 11. I don't know if I can find another one. Let me try, because I fixed that one. Maybe I can. I'll see if I can find another indicator 11 error. I fixed the one we had, so let me see here. Maybe I can. Might be able to manipulate this to show it. Well, I can't get it to copy exactly, but what you would do if you had that error, it's probably going to look something like this with an old consent date. So you'll come in and you're going to hit delete on this date on all of these, clear all of these out. So I'm hitting delete, highlight, delete, and then I'm going to save it. And then under reason not applicable, I'll come back and hit 02 and then save again. Okay. Okay, when entering data for a meeting after December 1st, but before February data day, we should do an INDAD to make any changes, correct? You should always do an INDAD to make changes. I mean, not relevant to December 1 at all. So, I mean, that's my recommendation. I always recommend doing end ads when there are changes to the records. If you directly edit any records, then you're going to wipe away any of the history. So if they did something, if they had an IEP and started school in August, in September, they had a change, then you should do an end ad then. So I always recommend end ads. All right. If you have new superintendents, they should be able to log into iStar and have full access automatically. If for some reason they started after the school year, that may not be the case. And so if they do log in and they don't have any access, just let us know and we'll help them get that. But again, by default, district superintendents should have full access to iStar. Okay, what is the new eval button here in indicator 11? So very rarely would you have a new evaluation, but you can have data already entered and have a student have another initial. One way that would happen is if they had returned to regular ed and you went and put them in and it pulled in their old data, then you would be putting in a new evaluation, okay? Because they would be having a new initial. So again, maybe they had speech when they were in pre-K and then a couple years, and then they went back to regular ed full time. A couple years goes by, you notice another deficit, you do another initial. So parent signs the consent and you go through the initial process again. That would be a new evaluation. The second thing that I can think of is that if you did an evaluation, you did an initial on a student, and maybe you did it two or so years ago, child was eligible, but parent refused services. Maybe a couple years down the road, parent changes their mind and they want to go through the initial process again. That would be a second initial. So, you know, kids can have more than one initial evaluation, but again, that would be rare for that to happen. So new evaluation will be used under those circumstances where data exists, but the child is having a new initial. Okay, we have any other questions or any other messages that I can try to look at? So remember, for December 1, we want our approvals to be error-free. We're not worrying about claims until at least May. Okay, no claims until May, at least for tuition. Some of you may have residential records, that's different. But for tuition, we will not have any due dates until June. So if you're looking at your error reports, you want to make sure that you're looking at approvals only. Of course, as all this approaches, we will be sending emails of the errors that you have. We will be calling if we need to. And just remember, we can only send you information on what is provided. So if you have errors, that's because the data exists. So we can send you reports on that. Okay? But if you haven't entered the students, then that poses a problem, right? We can't send you errors or warn you about kids that don't exist. So you need to make sure that you've got all your kids entered. I like to change the error type to fatal so you can only see the fatal errors and not warnings. So warnings are important, but they will not prevent the record from being picked up. Okay, so this is how you would run your error report if you want to run it on your own. The edit checks run every night, so you don't have to worry about coming in the morning and wondering whether your report's up to date or not. It should be every morning. It will be up to date. Okay, any more questions? I'll hang on for just a minute or so. If not, we will see you all at the next session. So the next session that we're going to have is going to be the 1st of December. It will be December 2nd, and that's going to be our December to-dos. So that's where we have our Zoom, which is very casual. and you don't have to turn your camera on. You don't have to talk, but you can. If you have questions and concerns, anything that you want to talk about, again, it's a very casual environment. That's the place to get some of those things across. You know, it's a good place to, if you have some suggestions and, you know, good suggestions that you think would benefit everyone overall, that's the place to bring them to. Talk to me about them. If you talk to me, then I can explain them to our programmers. Okay. So I really invite you to come to that. It's a little bit different. You don't register for that. So you're just going to go click on the link that day. And then we're going to have our final training, preparing to transmit. We're preparing for the final snapshot, I guess I should say. We don't transmit anymore, but that's going to be preparing for February 25th. So that's going to be on December 4th. And after that, that'll be it. And then we'll be going through to the new year. Okay, I don't see any more questions, so I will let you guys get, and remember, join me in December for our next trainings. I hope all of you have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I will see you in December. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.